Will Stronghold, son of legendary superheroes the Commander and Jetstream, didn't inherit any superpowers from his parents. Starting high school at Sky High, he navigates hero and sidekick classes while keeping his lack of powers a secret. However, there's a looming threat they have to face to save the world. The movie starts with Will Stronghold explaining that in his world, there are many superheroes. The most famous ones are the super strong Commander and the flying Jetstream. While everyone knows them as heroes, Will reveals that they are actually his parents, Steve and Josie Stronghold, who also run a successful real estate business. Will is about to start high school at Sky High, a school for superpowered kids. But there's a big problem. Will has no powers. Steve and Josie are organizing their day when Will's friend Layla arrives to walk to the bus with him. Josie offers Layla some breakfast, bacon and eggs, but Layla declines because she is a vegan. She explains that her mom can talk to animals and they don't like being eaten. Steve finds Will pretending to lift weights, trying to fake having super strength so he doesn't disappoint his dad. Steve gives Will a pep talk about starting high school and shares his hope that Will save the world one day. Suddenly, Steve and Josie get a call on their special red cell phones. The Commander and Jetstream are needed. They say goodbye to Will and head to their secret Zactum to suit up. They rush downtown, where a giant robot is attacking the city. Jetstream drops Commander onto the robot, smashing it. The crowd cheers as Commander pulls out the robot's eye as a trophy. Will and Layla arrive at the bus stop. When the bus comes, the driver, Ron Wilson, makes fun of Will for being a freshman until he finds out that Will's parents are the Commander and Jetstream. Will then meets his friend Zach, who is excited because he finally got his powers. Ron Wilson drives the bus through a construction zone and then drives it right off a bridge. He calmly flips some switches, and wings and rocket engines pop out, turning the bus into a flying vehicle. They soar up to their new school, Sky High. Ron explains that the school is kept afloat by anti-gravity and is always moving to stay hidden. The freshmen get off the bus and are immediately confronted by two bullies, Lash, who can stretch, and Speed, who moves super fast. They try to scam money from the freshmen, but Gwen Grayson, the student body president, stops them. She gives the freshmen a talk about Sky High, but Will is so captivated by her that he doesn't hear a word she says. As the freshmen walk into the gym, a shiny silver comet zooms past them. It lands on the podium and spins around to show principal powers. She wishes the students good luck at Sky High. Next, Coach Boomer comes into the gym to start power placement. Each student has to show their powers, and Coach Boomer will assign them to either the hero or sidekick class. The latter is also known as hero support, which Magenta calls loser class. Zach excitedly steps up and demonstrates his ability to glow in the dark. However, Coach Boomer isn't impressed and uses a loud sound to knock Zach off the stand, labeling him as a sidekick. The other freshmen go through their placement one by one. Ethan, who can melt into a puddle, and Magenta, who can turn into a guinea pig, are both placed in the sidekick class. Layla doesn't like this system, so she refuses to participate, which automatically makes her a sidekick too. When the bell rings, Coach Boomer announces a lunch break and decides to start with Will when they return. At lunch, Will sees a weird boy in leather who seems to be staring at them. Magenta identifies him as Warren Peace, the son of a superhero mom and a supervillain dad. Will learns that his dad captured Warren's dad and sent him to prison for a long time. Will feels terrible. It's only his first day, and he already has an archenemy. Back in the gym, Coach Boomer tries to test Will's powers by dropping a car on him and tossing him across the room. Will finally admits that he has no powers at all. Boomer declares Will a sidekick so loudly that it breaks several windows. Next, the school nurse checks Will, but can't figure out why he has no powers. She mentions that he might eventually get powers from one or both of his parents, but there are rare cases where kids of superheroes don't develop any powers at all. The last known case of a powerless child is actually Ron Wilson, the bus driver. Will arrives home and his father, Steve, wants to have a talk. Steve takes Will into the secret sanctum, making him swear to keep it a secret and not to bring anyone else inside. The sanctum is filled with trophies from the Commander's battles, including the robot eye from that morning. There's also a weapon called the pacifier from a villain named Royal Pain, the first enemy that Commander and Jetstream defeated together. Steve reveals he has placed an empty pedestal with Will's name on it, hoping Will become a great hero someday. Will can't bring himself to tell his father that he's been classified as a sidekick. Meanwhile, the robot eye starts glowing, unnoticed by Steve and Will. The sanctum is being monitored by two mysterious figures. Layla visits Will and talks to him. She encourages Will to tell his father the truth, but he still refuses. The next day, Will and his friends start their hero support class with their teacher, All-American Boy. Mr. Boy shares that he used to work with the Commander and seems disappointed when Will doesn't recognize him. The power goes out in the building, and Zach takes the chance to show off his glowing powers. Then, Mr. Medulla, the science teacher with a big head, shows up and says there was a small misfire in the mad science lab. As the week goes on, Will and his friends get lessons from Mr. Boy and Mr. Medulla. Ethan often becomes a target for bullies Speed and Lash, who give him frequent swirlies. One night, while studying at Will's house, the Commander comes home. Will can't keep the secret any longer and admits that he's a sidekick with no powers. The Commander is speechless. Later, Steve and Josie talk. Josie is also disappointed, but they realize there's nothing they can do about it. Steve decides that Will can always have a successful career in real estate instead of being a hero, and despite his disappointment, he still loves his son. The next day at lunch in the Sky High cafeteria, Lash uses his stretching powers to trip Will. Will's lunch tray flies and lands on Warren Peace, who gets furious. Warren, who can shoot fire from his arms, attacks Will. Will hides under the lunch table, unable to fight back. But when Warren threatens the other sidekicks, Will suddenly lifts the entire table with Warren on it, discovering he has super strength. Warren, angry, attacks again, and Will punches him so hard that Warren crashes into the teacher's lounge. Warren gets back up, ready to fight. Layla throws Will a fire extinguisher, and Will rips off the top and puts out Warren's fire. Principal Powers puts Will and Warren in a detention room. Principal Powers explains that the room neutralizes superpowers. Will tries to make peace, but Warren isn't interested. That night, Will comes home excited about his new powers. Josie is upset because he wrecked the cafeteria. Steve takes Will to the sanctum for a talk, but instead hugs him, thrilled that Will has super strength. Steve gives Will an Xbox as a reward for getting his powers. Meanwhile, the mysterious figures keep watching through the robot eye. Back in class, Will's friends are happy he stood up for them. Mr. Boy tells Will he's now in the hero class. In Mr. Megala's science class, Will partners with Gwen Grayson to build a freeze ray. Since Will is lost in the new class, Gwen uses her technopath powers to help. At lunch, Will meets Gwen and her friend Penny, who can duplicate herself. Penny and other heroes dismiss the sidekicks as losers. Feeling bad, Will invites Layla to her favorite Chinese restaurant, the Paper Lantern, and she happily accepts. Will see Speed and Lash bullying Ethan and Zach. Ethan and Zach believe Will can stop them, so they make a bet. If Will can outperform Speed and Lash in gym class, the bullies will leave the sidekicks alone for the rest of the year. If Will fails, they'll dunk Ethan's head in the toilet every day. In gym class, Coach Boomer explains the exercise Save the Citizen. Two students act as heroes, trying to save a dummy from falling into a spiked pit, while two others act as villains. Speed and Lash, the undefeated champions, choose Will and Warren as the heroes. At first, Will and Warren struggle because they can't work together. Will ties up Lash, but Warren is trapped by Speed's circular dash, which takes away the oxygen Warren needs for his fire powers. Warren tells Will to save the citizen, but Will takes out Speed instead. With only seconds left, Will throws Warren over the pit, rescuing the citizen. The commander is overjoyed to hear that Will has won Save the Citizen, a feat no freshman has accomplished before. Gwen visits Will's house to help with his science homework and gets along well with Will's parents. While looking through Steve and Josie's old yearbook from Sky High, they notice a girl named Sue Tenney who resembles Gwen. Gwen invites the commander and Jetstream to homecoming as guests of honor to receive the Heroes of the Year award. Meanwhile, Layla waits for Will at the Paper Lantern and meets Warren, who works there. Warren guesses that Layla secretly loves Will, which she confirms, but fears Will loves Gwen instead. At the same time, Will walks Gwen home, and she asks him to be her date to the homecoming dance. Will is so happy that he accidentally knocks over a lamppost. The next morning, Will apologizes to Layla for missing their dinner at the Paper Lantern. Layla is fine with it until Will says he's going to homecoming with Gwen. Heartbroken, Layla asks Warren to take her to homecoming. Warren isn't keen on the idea, but agrees when he realizes it will spite Will. Later in the week, Will and Gwen plan to meet with the homecoming committee, but the entire hero class ends up throwing a party at Will's house. Gwen asks for a quiet place to talk, and Will takes her to the sanctum. Gwen kisses Will, and during this moment, someone sneaks in and steals the pacifier weapon. Layla arrives at the party, and Gwen lies to her, saying Will is disgusted by her feelings. Heartbroken, Layla leaves. Seeing Layla upset, Will breaks up with Gwen and tells everyone to leave, but they ignore him. Just then, the commander and Jetstream come home, causing everyone to rush out. Will tells his parents he didn't plan the party and won't be going to homecoming. Steve urges him to go so he can introduce the Stronghold 3, the greatest superhero family. Will goes to the Paper Lantern to talk to Layla, but Warren tells him he's only taking Layla to make Will jealous. Will doubts that Layla or any of the other sidekicks will ever talk to him again. That night, Commander and Jetstream leave for homecoming while Will stays in the sanctum. He looks through his dad's old yearbook and sees a girl who looks like Gwen holding a device similar to the missing pacifier. Realizing the pacifier is gone, Will contacts Ron Wilson for an emergency ride to Sky High. At the homecoming dance, Gwen reveals her true identity as the supervillain Royal Pain. She uses the pacifier to turn Commander into an infant and hits several others with the ray. Speed, Lash, and Penny seal the exits, but Warren, Layla, and the sidekicks escape through an air vent. Zach uses his glow powers to guide them, and they bump into Will. Will confirms that Gwen is Royal Pain's daughter and apologizes for his behavior since becoming a hero. Layla forgives him with a kiss. Warren tells Will to stop Gwen while they handle the henchmen. Ethan runs away and traps Lash's head in a toilet. Warren struggles to hit Speed but gets an advantage when Speed slips on Ethan, who is melted into a puddle. Warren then blasts Speed into a wall. Will confronts Gwen, who is taking the infant heroes to start her own academy of supervillains. Gwen reveals she is actually Sue Tenney. The original pacifier weapon backfired on her, so she waited to grow up again to exact revenge. Will is shocked and disgusted to realize he's been in love with an old lady. Royal Pain smashes Will through the gym wall. Meanwhile, Layla fights Penny and her duplicates. Frustrated, Layla uses her powers to trap Penny and her clones in vines. Penny reveals that Royal Pain is messing with the school's anti-gravity device, and Sky High will fall in 10 minutes. Zach, Ethan, Layla, and Magenta check the school's blueprints. They find a small opening to the anti-gravity room that only Magenta, in her guinea pig form, can fit through. Will and Royal Pain are still fighting when she punches him out of a window and off sky high. Moments later, Will flies back, revealing his second power, flight. The Jester is loading the infant heroes onto a bus when Ron Wilson stops him by knocking him out. Magenta reaches the anti-gravity device and starts chewing through a wire just as Royal Pain shuts it down. Will tries to stop the school from falling, and Magenta bites through the wire just in time to prevent Sky High from crashing into a neighborhood. With the school stabilized, Will and his friends are unsure what to do next. Mr. Megala, still smart despite being an infant, decides to reprogram the pacifier. As the heroes are returned to normal, Will apologizes for letting Gwen into the sanctum. The Commander and Jetstream declare that the Hero of the Year award should go to Will and his friends, including Ron Wilson, for stopping Royal Pain. Everyone resumes the homecoming dance. In a voiceover during the end credits, Will explains, "My girlfriend became my archenemy became my best friend, and my best friend became my girlfriend. But hey, that's high school." And the movie ends here. Thank you for watching, and I highly recommend watching the entire movie as it is incredibly enjoyable. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel so you can stay updated and receive notifications whenever we upload new videos.